Today's guest is Amber Celestial Angel, who's a certified angel intuitive practitioner, messenger, prophetic visionary, way shower, aspiring harpist, certified birth keeper doula, divine mother keeper, animal communication guide, and animal healer. She works with the divine angels, archangels, ascended masters, and the ancestors in all of her practices. She has always had gifts, but couldn't open up with many people about it. It was during her near-death experience that she was guided to come out and share the story, to help others on their journey, and to share the messages with you all. In essence, to bring heaven to earth within and all hearts and homes. Welcome, Amber.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. It's interesting how so many people are connected to the three-dimensional world in terms of how we're engaged in the activities of daily life. And yet certain stresses in life sometimes bring us to a place of either remaining in that place of taking on the stresses and victimizing ourselves, or sometimes going to a place, or not escaping, but rising our vibration or our frequency to a higher place of seeing things from a different perspective. And I think many of the people that I speak to are on that journey or have had experienced that. You, for example, had a near-death experience, but prior to that experience itself, I'm sure you had certain instances or experiences that either put you in a place of staying in that spot, of not sharing, as you said, your information of the gifts you had, or maybe expanding upon them at some particular time. Maybe you could just give us a little bit of a background before the incident of your near-death experience.
Yeah, so I had dreams, visions as a child. I always had um, things like that happen. And at the time when I was experiencing this, I could recall, and it's coming. And I tried to share it with people around me. At that time, I was in a Christian home, and I got either shamed and told that's crazy, or people coming to me asking me like what's going to happen, what is, asking me all these questions about the future or their life. And being 10, 11, I didn't know, any of that, what was going on. So I ended up just shutting down or turning it off, I guess, which it was still there, but I just didn't talk about it and it was lessened. So I always had that, but I could not really share it because I felt shamed and thought maybe there is something wrong with me. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
as a child. As a teenager, I kind of opened up more to it, but I still didn't really know. It's like a lot came through then, but I still had no idea what it was. So once I had my first child, 22, 23, I kind of just shut it off again. I was afraid, really. I didn't know what it was. I
Right.
thought I might be weird.
Yeah, but when you speak of knowing or the things that you were, dealing with in terms of the things you didn't want to share, what were some of the things that you were receiving from spirit that you couldn't share?
Dreams, I would get dreams of just future events or about kind of a spiritual war. There were different things that I'd have dreams about, and or just simply I would see somebody in my dream and they would appear the next day, like, or have a conversation that I'd have in a dream, and then they would have that conversation the next day. So it was like that kind of thing.
So who was the first person you tried to share this with when you were younger?
The the Christian community. We lived in a home. My mom had addiction, so she was getting clean, and we lived in this Christian home with people, and I thought it was a good place to share, but I guess you know, it it is what it is now, huh? But
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be a welcoming place, but it turned out not exactly to be.
right. So you speak about having prophetic visions. Are there any specific prophetic visions that you've seen or dreamed of that have come to fruition, other in terms of not only just seeing certain people, but are there specific events that you've maybe that haven't happened yet, but that you've that are profound?
Oh wow. Well, there's a lot of little ones, just like in my daily life, but probably the bigger one or a bigger one is the election, and I dreamt about it another person winning, and
Right,
but
right,
not getting the credit for it, right? So I did have that dream. That was something I had shared back then before it happened, but that was
right.
probably a bigger one, I guess, for a recent
So
event.
how do these prophetic visions help you or not hurt you, but I wouldn't use the word disable, but so what's the positive and what's the negative of having prophetic visions,
Hmm.
if there is any?
The positive, I guess, is I know there's preparation, I guess, but then I try not to see it too negative, because I mean, if I just figure if it happens, if it happens, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. So I end up just kind of taking it and just realizing it, being prepared or knowing, but not dwelling and not expecting either.
Right, right. What exactly is a way shower? You just
Okay, wave show. Oh yes, the wave shower from
way
the,
shower.
yes, just a term the native tribes would use. Um, oh, that's a whole story that I won't. There's
Okay.
different stories of that, right?
Yeah, no, okay. I didn't understand what that was. Okay. From my perspective, watching and being very interested in people who have near-death experiences, I've not drawn the conclusion, but I've had the understanding that many people were sometimes not performing the calling that they were supposed to have been doing in their life, or they were detached from spirit when they were on the course of or on the path of spirituality. So many times people were in the wrong profession or they were just trying to hide or suppress the gifts that they were given. And in terms of your near death experience, maybe you could tell the audience a little bit about what happened and what you received from it.
Yeah, yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I was I had just been receiving messages again and getting messages, and things coming through before my near-death experience about a year before, when I was pregnant with my second son, and I tried shutting those off again. So when with my third son that I was pregnant and had the near death experience from, I was trying to suppress it. I was very depressed. So yes, I could probably say that I feel, of course, and then when I was in that space, I of my near death experience, I feel that yeah, they said you have things to do, like stop trying to suppress it. But okay, getting into the near death experience. So I had postpartum preeclampsia, and it is a 99% death rate. I mean, the cure is having the baby. So when you have it after the baby, most people don't survive. And that's what I had. 4 days after I had my son, I had this terrible, excruciating headache. I couldn't see. I light sensitivity. I couldn't walk because it was so bad. So I went to the hospital. My fiance at the time took me to the hospital, and my blood pressure was 180 something over 130 something. So they took me up, rushed me up, said I had postpartum preeclampsia, rushed me up, and started to put started to try and get my blood pressure down. And the machines broke, so they had to start doing it manually. The machines weren't working, and it wasn't going down. So um, this doctor comes in, and I just remember so vividly like him throwing these clothes on, and he's like, we've got to get you under, or we got to get this treatment started now, or you could have a stroke, seizure, or die. um and I'm not a medical person, so I was very hesitant. Usually I'd be hesitant, but I just knew I need to trust this. Um, and all the while, I felt very tired. I was tired and almost like, this, like when you just have no fight in you, is how I felt. And so then they're wheeling me down to take me to another room. And on my way, I feel like I was going in and out. Like I started seeing weird shapes and seeing things. I think it might have been a start of a seizure or stroke, but I don't know for sure. But
Right.
I was seeing weird things. So when we get down to the room and it's very dark and dingy and like no windows and it's just felt dark. And at some point they said to my ex that you should probably go home. And
It's okay.
excuse and let me have time to sleep and rest. And so he did and went with baby or newborn. And I just started kind of drifting away. I was still in that drifting space. And at one point, I don't even remember like going to sleep or what. I was just out of my body and saw some of his past loved ones there and light beings, which I now know as angels. I call them angels. They were just light though. And mostly what it was for me was a feeling of just like peace and comfort. And yeah, that's what it felt like. And I saw light. And so I just thought, or didn't really think, but it was just more like I noticed some of the people, but then some of them I didn't notice.
You mean
And
when you say notice, that means
then I wasn't exactly out of my box.
yeah, I'm sorry. Did you say when you say notice, meaning did you
Oh,
know
like,
did you recognize people that or you notice people in general? Like, is that what you meant?
I meant like I noticed some of his relatives, like some of them looked familiar, but then some of them didn't. But it's like I just knew they were some of his family and some of
Whose
mine.
family was that?
That was my ex at the time,
Okay, okay.
my fiance at the time. So then it gets kind of weird because all of this is like there's no time and space and it kind of goes at the same time. And so I'm taken, but it's not the same as the out of body that I had. It's like I was just out there, but I had no form. I don't, it was just my mind. It's so hard to explain, in human
Right.
terms. But I was just out there now. And the angels, these light beings were all around me with me, like just, I feel giving me comfort and guidance. And Divine Mother, who I say, and Mother Mary, and I didn't see the face, but I just felt the presence. And actually, I knew it was her from channeling her beforehand. That was one of those things I tried to shut down. But I knew the energy and felt it just this beautiful, loving, nurturing, comforting presence. And but I mean, we can just call it Divine Mother, right? Some people say Catholic, or I'm not a religion, but Divine Mother and Mother Mary as she came through to me. Um, and she was there, and she said, "I am you. You are me." And it's like there was this embodiment, this just like knowing and feeling that I carry that energy, or she gifted it. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it's like it was a part of me. And so they're taking me down this, I like to describe it like a wormhole or tunnel. Um, and there's this darkness and these dark figures and these dark shapes and shadows. And um, it was just real dark. And I just said, well, I'm not going there. And then we just kind of passed it by. And then there was these beautiful shapes and colors, vibrant colors. And it's so hard to explain in words like how beautiful, because there's no color that looks like that.
Wow.
And the only recognizable human thing I saw was butterfly and some butterflies, and they were so vibrant um, and just flying by. But other than that, it's just shapes and things that I can't quite explain what they were, but just beauty, beauty all around. And I just kind of thought, that's beautiful. Um, and there wasn't really much thought. All this, is like telepathic when they're showing me or talking to me, but I didn't think much or feel too much except just comfort and peace. But I wasn't afraid. There was no fear at all. And so then I end up saying, I think I want to live. I think I'd like to live and watch my kids grow up. And I want to be there for my children. And so they showed me these future little snippets of future events, like just conversations, birthdays, celebrations, like these different little snippets of them in the future. And I just laughed at that point and I said, okay, if that's all that I get and you're just gonna, and I just get to see them here, then I'll be okay with that. And I really feel like I was very grateful, filled with gratitude that they gave me that before I was gonna pass, you know, thinking I might pass. And then so then there's this light all around me, just all around me, and it's just filled with unconditional love. And I never know how to explain it, but just so beautiful, unconditional love, and just submersed in this. I had no form. I was nothing. I was just it. I was part of it. And it's so hard to describe that feeling. It was just so magical, so beautiful, so magnificent. All this love that I was entrenched in, that I was. And I don't know how long I was there, but then all of a sudden I was kind of back in my body, yet outside of my body. It was kind of both. And the angels, the light beings, were here around me and they were guiding me, showing me how to heal my brain. I thought my brain was bleeding and my organs were swelling. That's what postpartum preeclampsia does. It swells the organs. And so I saw this, I could see it, and they were showing me, like, on my physical body, yet outside of myself, how to heal that and guiding me, instructing me. So I was doing that all through my brain, my body, and then and then I was back fully at some point. I want to say it was a few hours, maybe a night, but really time just slipped by and he was gone the whole night. So um I don't know how long it lasted.
Wow. What was your first emotion or the first thought that came to your mind once you opened your eyes and you were back in the room where you were? What did you play this in your mind? What just took place, or this was eventually like later on? How did this play out?
I Yeah, I woke up and I guess I was still real tired. I still felt tired, but I did wonder, like, but I also was like, am I loopy? Like I was like not sure. Uh But after a little while, it didn't take long for me to start replaying it and wondering what happened. Um, and then putting the pieces together or trying to figure out how, it all happened at simultaneously. So there wasn't really an order of it, but I try and put it in an order. But sometimes it'll come out of order because it was just all simultaneous.
Right, right, right,
Except the end. That was definitely the end when I saw the light. That was the end when I was in that love and then came back. That that was the end and the beginning, right? When I came back, I
right,
guess.
right.
So
Were you asked whether you want to go to the light or to return back to human form as you did, based upon just solely the photos of seeing your children when they were older? Or was there an energy pulling you or telling you to go back? Because sometimes people with near-death experiences, from my understanding, they're told they have to go back. It's not their time at this point. Did you hear that? Did you see that? Were you told that, or you were the one who made that decision?
yeah, no, I didn't get that. I just said I would like to stay, but if I have to go, then okay, I'll go. But I would like to stay. So, and then I was popped in that
Yeah,
unconditional loving space and back. So,
yeah, it's right.
and
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, as they're showing me and teaching me this healing that I'm doing, it was a message. It was coming through like, you have things to do here. This is part of what it is. You have things to do. It's like it was just a knowing, like this I had to take and carry over and share with others. Um, my experience and just things I gained through it and the healing aspect of it.
Right, right. Who was the first person you told this story to, this experience? Did,
It was my fiance at the time. Yeah, I did tell him. Strange, although it had been strange because I was receiving those messages and I told him about that. I'm channeling these messages before, but we weren't religious, and it changed my life completely. I mean, we're not together anymore. I mean, it changed my life completely. I knew I had things to do and going higher, ascending, and raising my vibration. Now I know, these terms. Then I didn't really, but I just knew that I had stuff to do. And I mean, as you grow, people fall out of your life who just don't match the energy or don't see things the same, I guess. So I've lost a lot of people, that's for sure, but I've gained a lot as well, or a few, gained a few, lost a lot. That's okay. They're meaningful. Um, yeah, so I told him, and it was just different because we came together, not religious, not really having beliefs like that. And after that, experiencing the angels and certain things, God's presence is what I call it, the unconditional love, God, creator,
right,
source. And then I knew there was something, and I always was just not sure, you know. And with that experience, I knew. And now my idea of it is broader and expanded more than just, oh, it's God, one guy up in heaven. No, it's all around us and everything, and you and I, and all, all things, creatures, creator, creating it all, and us all coming from the one.
right. Yeah, it's interesting because, as they say, or I've heard, many times in life we can either be touched by the feather and make a change, or we can get hit with the brick and then have to make the change. Um, so I think Spirit calls us in terms of what we're supposed to be doing on our spiritual journey. And I guess the people that come into our lives are put there in order to be the impetus for change for us. Whether we are with that person and we realize that we need to grow away from them or those other types of people or friends. I mean, the journey becomes lonely uh, because, in essence, you really feel the isolation of self growth, and a spiritual journey. I think for myself feels that way as well, or did at least. I mean, certain people come into your life, and certain people fall at the wayside. The ones that are supposed to be there are there. The ones that are supposed to leave do leave, which is good. What was the greatest message that you received from this experience? What message is?
Yes, that there's purpose in life. There's purpose in your life and the life around us, seeing that beauty, having the perspective of heaven on earth, creating that in your life. You can choose to kind of be a victim and be in a darkness and have negative things all around you, or you can choose to be more empowered and have beauty around you and see the beauty in nature, in your friends, in the people around you, and all things. And so I feel just perspective and that playful innocence. I learned so much about that too, like not taking things too seriously, like living while you're here, actually living, not just, and also being, right? I've found that balance in being as well. Sitting with yourself, that's where you talked about being lonely, right? So, yeah, it can get lonely. And then when we learn to be and just be in ourselves, we realize we're so not alone. Like we have ourselves, within ourselves and our guides and that connection. And and that as well, like the balance of being, doing, and then yes, that perspective, having the perspective of, do you choose to be a victim or empowered? Choose to see hell on earth or heaven on earth?
Right,
Do you choose to walk your path, your purpose, and follow it? Or do you choose to not and come back and do it all over again?
right. How does your family look at you now after you've experienced what you have and shared the story with other people? I'm sure they have an idea that you are speaking about this.
Yeah, some of my family, I hadn't really kept in touch with them. But when I had that experience, because I moved and they're all in one state, and I moved to another state with my fiance at the time. And well, when I did almost die, he had called, or I had called and let him know, like, all that happened. Anyway, we've kind of kept in touch, but they, well, a few have actually come to me for, advice, and they had always known, also knew that I had some gifts, like that I had some things going on. I was just like weirdo Amber. I don't know. Um, but they're not they're not very judgmental, but they, like a lot of people, don't understand, but also open-minded. So I mean, they've been pretty good. Most
Right.
have been pretty good there.
Yeah, it's interesting. We people who experience trauma in childhood um, somehow are not gifted, but I guess maybe are gifted with the qualities of being able to see and to understand things from a deeper perspective. And maybe sometimes we're actually put in this position to actually experience the hardships and traumas to actually develop the skills that will be necessary in the future for personal growth, but also spreading the word of people ascending and growing on a spiritual level. Um, from your perspective, you've developed, I'm sure, different skills after this experience, or at least maybe to a greater level. Maybe you could just share with the audience what you've learned or what you experience now.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that as well. I feel we go through things, like I have a lot of strength, strength and faith, perseverance. I feel I had to have that growing up, and I was used to being alone in a way. Um, I was alone a lot and felt misunderstood. So yeah, I feel that definitely is like, after this experience and going into all this, I really needed that. Those were tools that I needed. And a lot of healing, that I needed. as well. Like certain things, I was afraid to share it because I had gotten shamed. So at first I was afraid, but I knew I had to. So I kept going, but I really had to work on my confidence and work on that. That was one of the biggest things that was for me, like sharing, because being judged or told, what are you crazy? So
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. Um, yeah, and I had to learn a lot. Oh yeah, things expanded for sure. I had to realize that I don't just go around telling people that their past loved one is trying to connect with them, that I was like saying too much. And I had to, I got a mentor and I learned a lot about, when to say things, when to not letting people's energy affect me, keeping my energy protected. And, being empath like most of us are, we absorb. So, no, I had to learn to shield that, protect that, and I've learned a lot. It feels like it's never ending, right? Like it's never ending learning. You're always learning and growing, ever expanding. So there's always new things I'm learning, just in general, just about expansion and how we can literally change our DNA
Right.
and our consciousness expanding and downloads of different consciousnesses. Yeah, it but also I feel lately the biggest thing that I've been being taught is being here now, being in the moment. And that's also something they really taught me there. Oh, here were words that came through. I forget about this. Co- family, community, cosmos, compassion. Those were words I was also given like during my near death experience, like to bring those things when I come back, bring those things to awareness. And that's important, all those things. So, yeah,
Yeah.
being here now.
Yeah.
And that's a big one I'm learning.
So how do you remind yourself of that? Do you replay the scene in your mind of what you experienced during the near-death experience, or do you hear those words again, repetitively in your brain? How do you reorganize yourself and ground yourself in the now, the here and now?
I go outside. Of course, I'll go outside, but also just laying down and feeling and getting into that oneness space and really, separating the mind from the body and being in my body in the here now. And that's what I'm learning now. And being very aware of every little thing around, and I'm still in the process of learning all that and being very here now because I've been a lot the person who I don't really live in the past or the future, but I've learned not to worry. That's another thing. I've learned not to really worry. Like, why? There's no point in it. I
Right,
don't know what's gonna happen or not. Not like that. I'm not prophetic like that. Like I don't know that stuff. Everyday things. So I just don't really worry. But I am very, I guess, I've always been the type who's very flowy and just kind of off the whim. But I'm learning there is some structure like to be in and be here now and um, feel everything around, see everything around, really a lot of awareness, and then balancing all that, like still being in the flow and going with it, but very keen and aware.
right. Now you do specific healing work with people. You work with the angels as an intuitive practitioner. If somebody
Yeah.
were to ask you exactly what that is and what you do, how would you describe that?
So the angels, so people will ask this, yeah, an energy. It's just an energy, right? It's an energy or a frequency that you tap into. And I like to describe it like you're tapping into a radio station, right? And you're dialing in, and which one are you going to tune to? And so it's kind of like that. So I tune in, tap into this realm and use that. And that's a lot of that comfort, peace, and what I felt in that experience. I just bring it in my practice and give people that peace, and able to receive their messages in a place of peace and love, feeling comfortable. So that's what I do in my practices, and all of them give that
Right.
energy frequency, bring it out, and for them to feel.
And you mentioned also that you're a birth keeper, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, doula. Could you just share what that exactly is?
It's a it is someone who helps a mother during pregnancy. So that's the woman, she'd work with a midwife in when people had midwives back then, and some do now. Um, the doula is the person who would tend to the mother and really help her in whatever way she needed, mostly emotionally, just being there with her during her pregnancy, during the pregnancy and delivery.
Okay. And also, there's a deep interest for yourself in animals and healing, and also help assisting people with, I guess, connecting to the animals itself. How did you develop that, and where did that, you know, interest come in?
Yeah. That was another one that I had since I was a kid. Like I always would just, if I saw a hurt animal, I'd go and help the hurt animal. And I did and that I didn't think was too strange. I'd always just do that, and people didn't really say much about that. They'd see me do things and they're kind of like, whoa, like, but didn't it wasn't like crazy like when I had home dreams and visions and things like that. That was more accepted, I guess, doing that kind of work. And I've always just loved animals and been able to help them in that way. And
Yeah.
I think, they're more open. And whereas people can block it, people can consciously or unconsciously block any healing or anything from their own mind, right? But animals don't really have that. So they're, um, from my experience, much easier to work with as far as healing and like physical healing and getting them better.
Yeah, I never understood the concept of an animal or dog being man's best friend until I met my girlfriend's dog, who follows me everywhere I go. And so the connection I have in terms of energetically, just her sitting next to me is comforting. I think just as much for her as it is for me, in terms of the energy I give off and the energy she receives, or the energy I receive from her. I do meditations. She listens to the music and she sits there and falls asleep. It's very interesting. So I do understand that connection, and never had that before. And I don't think that unless a person has a connection with an animal, do they really make a connection to a spiritual, have a true spiritual connection, because there's an unconditional love that you mention, or you feel. Um, so that's something very interesting. How do you, in terms of a person, if they were interested in contacting you or speaking to you, do you have is there a contact information where a person can get in touch with you?
Yes, I'm ambercelestialangel.com, and email amber@ambercelestialangel.com, and I'm on YouTube, Amber Celestial Angel.
Yes. Speaking of YouTube, I saw some of your tarot readings. Maybe you could just quickly tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I do cards, oracle cards as well, just for some guidance. I don't need it, but I do. I like the visualization, and people like to see things, and always, that confirmation comes through. And in my sessions, I'll usually use some cards too. It kind of just depends. I do a mix of channeling it, and then the cards just come to show you pretty
Confirm.
much what I've already said and give more of a picture.
Right, right, right. Well, yeah, I understand that. Doing the Akashic record readings in terms of confirming it with a tarot card or something actually seals the deal in terms of the information that, you know, supports what the information coming through is. Is there like a message that you'd like to pass on from your wisdom that you've gained not only by your near-death experience but from your overall um, life experience?
All right. Yeah. So I'm just being guided now to talk about that, the innocence and playfulness. Um, it's always one of the biggest things that they bring through, like seeing as the eyes, of the innocent, the child, and seeing the beauty. When we would see just the little things in nature as a child, and it was so wonderful, right? Like literally wonderful. And to view life like that, and it just makes things not so stressful. You just see things in a whole new light. And yeah, to have those eyes of a child again, those innocent eyes, and play and have fun and live life through that fun, yet also humbly, not just being reckless.
Yeah,
um, but yeah, and cherishing every moment and every breath, because you never know when it'll be the last. And that's why I always say as well, like letting people know how you feel. That's really important. It doesn't matter, what will happen when your soul wants to say something, when it wants to express itself, allow it to. And what others think or how they take it is up to them. But at least you spoke your piece, and that's something you don't have to carry over. And it doesn't become a burden anymore. Some people carry that, not wanting to speak their truth, not wanting to speak their heart, and it can weigh you down. So just allowing it, letting it come out, and what happens happens.
yeah, it's interesting. You're proof of a person who's experienced being in body, being out of body, coming back into body, and then sharing the wisdom that you've gained and the insight and the maturity of sharing and passing on the wisdom to other people so that they have the opportunity to advance and to grow on a human and on a spiritual level. So I want to thank you for spending this time giving us the information, your wisdom, and your experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.